Well, hello, dear listeners, and welcome back to another episode of the Reforming Nerdom podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jordan Cecile, and I am today joined by the one and only Ben Jammin, aka Ben of the Cloth, aka Ben Emery. Ben, how are you?
I'm doing great. I feel like it's been a million years since we've been on together, so this is nice.
It has been, yeah. Nate and I were down in Arizona for listeners who might know that Nate and I both work with the Ezra Institute. We were down there for ReformCon, and so we took our families down. Really nice break. Enjoyed some time by the pool. Saw some pretty wild things in Arizona. Ben, have you ever been to Arizona? I don't know.
I have not, no.
It was one of the most. I mean, I think this time of year, it's better than other times of the year, just climate-wise. So it's like
it's
cool
not
in the
1,000
morning.
degrees.
Yeah, it's cool in the morning. It's like hot during the day, but not crazy hot. Cool again at night. It was beautiful. We went to the Grand Canyon, which was bonkers. I mean, anybody who looks at that and says like the little Colorado River at the bottom is the thing that carved it, it's like you're just nothing short of a fool. It was
I asked Nate.
awesome.
Yeah, I asked Nate if he just felt like this great urge to start carrying a bridge and drop it over the chasms of the Great Canyon.
We may have made a few Bridge 4 jokes while we
Yeah.
were there. Yep. But I mean, I don't think a bridge could. It was too big.
No.
It was too big. It was absolutely incredible. If you haven't been there, go look at a picture, and that won't even come close to doing it justice. When you see it with your own eyes and you see how big it was bananas. And then we also went down to through Sedona, like the Red Rock mountain things. You're driving in the valley. That was crazy. Anyways, it was a lot of fun. A lot of really nice visit. We actually met a fan, or one of our now patrons, down there, which was really cool. We were at the ReformCon conference in Tucson, and it was pretty fun to be able to meet a fan. I think he's from up in the Washington State area, so that was pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, the more this grows, it'll be cool to be able to meet more people who enjoy the show and join us on Patreon. So listeners, if that's you, if you're listening and you're not on Patreon, you really should join us, because it's becoming.
What are you waiting for?
I mean, you really have no reason. We've made it so simple, so cheap, so easy. It's and we're having a lot of fun over there. We're actually just getting ready for those who are maybe new to the program. We're getting ready to do our first book club meetup on Monday night, I believe, is what we have in the calendar.
That is what's in the calendar, and I'm about to send a message to everybody on the Discord. Unfortunately, that we're probably gonna have to reschedule that. So I'm not sure when this episode is dropping, if it's before or after that, but
It'll be
either
before. Yeah.
apologies beforehand, or
Well,
in hindsight, but we'll have to figure out, because unfortunately Nate and I have an elders meeting. So bummer. But we'll figure it out
Ben,
really soon.
I sense that you have a cough coming on, is what it sounds in your voice. You might be sick come Monday,
Maybe.
But yeah, all right. Well, considering you chose the book, and you and Nate, I think, are a little bit more spearheading it, I will allow that to happen, because I'm reading it, Princess Bride. Not what I expected, at least in the
Which is
onset.
honestly is actually why I gave it as one, I gave a few books out as options, and the reason I put that one in is because I know how many people are familiar with the movie,
Mhm.
and I knew how different, how unexpected it's when you get into the book. It's kind of unexpected, so I thought it would just be an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah, I mean, now that okay, well, first off, there's like this whole thing about the introduction, which everybody was saying, like, what the heck's going on with this introduction? I was reading like the 30th anniversary one.
So there's
like
an even
three
another
introductions.
introduction. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was really confused by the whole thing. I was like, when am I supposed to start reading this? So now I'm actually into the story.
Yeah.
And now there's like so many parts where it's just a movie in my head.
Yeah.
The part where I'm at with, him climbing the cliff and
Yeah.
coming after to save
But
Buttercup.
it's really unique, because there's not many cases where the guy who wrote the book also wrote the screenplay for the movie, right? It's not like somebody adapted it. It's like, so the characters, even so, I think it's actually okay that you're seeing Andre the Giant in your mind when you're reading Fezzik, because he wrote Andre the Giant. as, as the
Yeah,
character.
that's who he had in mind when he wrote the
That is
character.
specifically who he wanted to play
Yeah.
that character. So I don't think you're actually doing, like, a disservice to your imagination when you just picture you know, Mandy Patinkin and Andre the Giant and all
Yeah.
those others.
Yeah. So, anyways, listeners, it won't be May 5th, but very soon after, perhaps next week or maybe the week after, we'll have to see.
Maybe
But
even just, like, another day that week, I don't know, we'll just have to see. I want it to
yeah,
work for as many people as can make it, so.
yeah, but it's really cool. We got a lot of people who are reading the book. We're already, I mean, in our Discord, we're chatting about it. So it's been a lot of fun just even getting into it. And I mean, reading with a community is just more fun. You guys discussed that in the episode we just released last week, the
Yeah,
Conversations by Stormlight. You and Nate, that little mini series that you guys are doing, working your way through the Stormlight archive. And in that, you guys mentioned it's just big reason for you guys reading it is the fact that so many people in our church are reading it together.
totally.
Even just somebody else, Aiden, last night from our church at baseball, he mentioned like, "Oh yeah, so I started it as well." So there's quite literally like 15 people at our church, all at different points throughout the series reading it, and it just makes it so much more fun when you
Yeah,
have other people to talk to about it.
yeah.
So
Honestly, like, that's as good a reason to read a book, I think, as any. Like, I would sooner read a book of lesser quality that I'm reading with 15 other guys than I would, maybe a better, more or, like a classic or whatever just by myself. Not that I wouldn't do both, but, like, there's it that is such a valuable thing, um, like, to have that community and be reading and discussing with other guys and making jokes and all
yep.
the things that go along with it.
Well, I think being well read is also reading books that aren't good, right? And being
Yeah,
able
totally.
to,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not just about reading
Not
books
that
that
Way
you
of Kings is
enjoy.
bad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just like because even Princess Bride, I think some people who have said, like, they're surprised that they don't like it because they like the movie so much,
Yeah.
because the introduction is such a weird introduction that you're not really expecting. But I think that's part of the thing that in being well read is just reading things that you might not like and discussing it and being critical of it, and that's okay. And, like, that's kinda what we're doing in this as well. There's gonna be good and bad, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But it's just that we're doing it together, which is gonna be fun. So but yeah, if you listeners, if you haven't listened to last week's episode where we dropped Conversations by Stormlight, that is going to be a Patreon exclusive show. You can go and listen to the first episode, but episodes moving forward are going to be exclusive to our patrons. So if you want to follow along, you can do so by going to patreon.com/reforming nerdom, sign up there, and you can get that show. And we have other exclusive shows planned as well that you will be able to benefit from in the future. But just to, before we even just segue into our topic of the show, just want to mention that this episode is also brought to you by Cosmos Coffee Company, which you will hear a bit more from them later. But so yeah, this week we're just wanting to talk a little bit about the Canadian election, but not like in a political way necessarily, because there's enough commentaries out there. I mean, listeners in America, you probably heard Canada. We had our election last week, and actually this week when we're recording, it was just on Monday.
Yeah.
Um, and unfortunately, like a dog going back to their vomit, Canadians voted for the most evil political party and government that Canada has ever seen. Again, after 10 years of Justin Trudeau decimating our economy, our housing market, our borders, our culture, pretty much everything, the boomer generation had showed up in swarms to vote them back in again. And so we are here now under Mark Carney and another liberal government for at least another 4 years. But we want to talk about it from the perspective of what does this mean for media and entertainment in Canada? Because that's more like, we don't want to just get into all the immigration policies and economic stuff because those are all just awful and terrible, and Canada's just a sinking ship. But I think a lot of our listeners are in America, and they don't even realize what that media landscape is in Canada currently. So, Ben, why don't you just even paint a little bit of a picture, big picture, before I want us to go through a couple of these bills that have been passed by the Liberal government over the last couple years. There's one that's an impending one that's hasn't been passed through yet, so it's not law yet. But why don't you just give a bit of a picture for our American listeners of what our government has done over the last few years to free speech and entertainment and media in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, for again, like, for our American listeners who aren't in the thick of it, who just probably can't even comprehend some some of the things that these guys have been doing, but, you even look at, one of the new, like, really just has come out very recently, like, right before the election happened, one of the, I wouldn't say promises, but kinda one of the things that they're platforming, and this is just to kinda give you an idea of who these people are and what they're like, is they're promising or at least saying that they would, be on the side of removing charitable status from religious organizations like churches and schools and so forth. So, like, these are the kinds of people like, they have 0 uh, qualms about hurting our feelings at all. Like, there's no there like, our influence has waned so greatly, as far as, like, a Christian conservative influence in Canada that these guys before, you would expect somebody like that to make those claims once they get in, like, once they've been elected and be like, "Oh, yeah, by the way." But it's like, no, like, they're so confident that even before the election, they're like, "Yeah, yeah, we're just gonna take charitable status away from churches."
Mhm.
And they still won, like, pretty handily. So, um, and so if they're willing to do that for, um, religious organizations, like, you can imagine what they're willing to do to curb free speech in areas like media and, that have even less kind of, uh, like, they'd be afraid of hurting their feelings even less than they would be afraid of hurting ours. So, like, we're gonna get into a couple of the bills, but this is just the type of people that we're dealing with.
Yeah, like, even part of that, a lot of Christians don't even know this in Canada, but um, as part of the effort to remove charitable status, Ben, I'm not even sure if you know this, but the invocation tax, have you heard of that? And
Yeah,
so Canadians and Americans, like, this shows just how much like China, unfortunately, Canada has become and is becoming because the government is actually not only saying, "Hey, we're gonna remove your status so that you don't actually get the tax benefits of being a charitable organization." People donating to it no longer get the benefits of donating to churches as for tax reasons, but they're also imposing or trying to impose an invocation tax, which is essentially whatever assets that your church or organization has, they want to tax you 100% of the value of those assets. So if your church building, we have a new building and we have money in the bank and investments and other churches that have land and all those things. Let's just say you have $1 million of assets. Well, the government is, if this bill goes forward, they're going to say to that charity or church, you have to pay us 100% of the value. So every penny of worth or value that it has, you have to pay us. If not, we're taking it from you.
yeah,
And so it is literally theft, like, and the scary thing is they don't care about the repercussions of it, and it's sad.
and apparently
That's
the
just
citizens of Canada don't care either because they
they
voted them.
want it, and that's where, I mean, I have family, uh, Christian family who voted for the Liberal Party, and it's just absolutely shocking. It's not shocking, but it is. It's like you were and I know Nate, when we were down in Arizona, we were chatting about it, he's like, "It's just like the Israelites leaving Egypt and complaining and asking to go back." And so here we are,
Like,
we
"Man,
have
the
this.
leeks were so good in Egypt."
Yeah, right? And it's just incredible how here we are, we're these people, and it's sad because it's largely the boomer generation, and I'm not wanting to say boomer just in, like, the pejorative, but it was.
No, like, literally, statistically speaking, every poll showed that by and large, the, largest percentage of conservatives now in Canada are, like, 18 to 35-year-old
Yeah.
males, and by a mile, the largest percentage of liberals or liberal, uh, like, left-leaning, whether the Liberal Party specifically or not, but, like, left-leaning individuals are the boomer generation. Like, and it was like a massive difference.
Yeah, I saw a guy from our church, a man in our church, he's probably in his late 50s, early 60s, something like that. And he was just condemning his own people, his own generation, and saying, you chose Carney over your kids and your grandkids and your great grandkids. And then it was funny how he's like, hey, just remember, maid's a thing. And it's just like, right? And
Yeah,
here you have,
right?
right? And it's
Well,
like,
for those of you who
okay,
don't know what MAID is, again,
yeah, it's
American
like
was
you're on your
meant
way out, and your kids who you've kind of screwed for their generation and your grandkids. It's like, yeah, they're not going to hesitate to pull the plug on you if it comes to it. Which is, I mean, so all that to say, like that's the landscape of Canada, right? The policies that are being put forward are not much different than China. I mean, Mark Carney, our now prime minister, well, who was, and we don't need to get into how he even became prime minister to begin with, but he was now voted in as prime minister, is just a puppet for the Chinese Communist Party and the globalists. And
yeah,
but why we want to even talk about this? We don't want to just talk about the election because you can go find commentary elsewhere. But we want to talk about it from the perspective of what does this mean for media and entertainment in Canada? Because in the last few years, the Liberal government has put forward bills that are crazy, like dystopian, 1984 North Korea type legislation that has been passed, meaning majority of um, representatives and senators in order to get a bill passed through the whole process of passing a law in Canada. A couple of these are actually laws that exist, and most people wouldn't even really know that these are a thing. And so the first one that we wanted to bring up, and all of these things have been passed, and I think it just shows they're now in for another 4 years. It's going to get worse. They're going to try to put forward more stuff. They're going to try to limit free speech more than they already have. They're going to try to take away, the ability for pastors like Ben and Nate to stand up and preach the word and post those videos on YouTube, making it very hard for this type of episode to even exist. And so in 5 years, this episode might not exist because Mark Carney might actually have it pulled down, which is crazy to think, but it's not actually that far-fetched,
yeah,
unfortunately, in
not out
Canada.
of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, like this episode, if we were speaking in China as Chinese citizens about Xi Jinping, would not exist. Like there's no way. And so thankfully, it does. Like we're not at the point yet where they're curbing it entirely, but this is the type of video that will on YouTube, it'll get demonetized or it will not show, and that's okay. We know that, but we just think it's important for people to realize what's going on here because typically Canada, what do they say? It's like 5 or 10 years ahead of America in terms of the shift
Yeah,
left. And so, yes, America thankfully has a much more competent president and there's a lot of good things happening there. But sorry, Americans, like you're not actually that much better than us. Yes, you are in some ways, and it was great being down there, but it's like you have a lot of the same problems that we have. It's just we're a little bit further ahead than you are. So I think use this as a cautionary tale for, this is why the church needs to be active in evangelizing and sharing the gospel, disciple your kids, speak out against the evils of the culture. Because sadly, in Canada, our parents and grandparents' generation failed abysmally
yeah.
in doing that. So we're here
Well,
now because of that.
if you wanna look at it as like an Aesop's fable, I kinda look at us as a frog in a pot that's already been boiled, and then America is a frog that just got thrown into a pot of boiling water, and they're looking over at us, making fun of us for already being dead while they're already in a pot of boiling water.
Yeah, yeah. So we all need to be working to get ourselves out of this, and this is going to be a multi-generational project. I mean, we know that, and I think that was one of the things that was helpful as when being with Nate and a friend of ours, Justin, down in Arizona. We were talking about it. It was like, okay, well, it just means we got more work to do, and we got to work, and there's stuff like this doesn't impact our discipling our kids. Doesn't matter who's prime minister. We disciple our kids to obey Jesus. We preach Christ in the public square in our church and in the culture, and you know what? Jesus wins, even if that means we're going to be in a dark time for a bit, but that's okay because ultimately we know He wins. But so yeah, the first bill here was this was introduced in June of 2023, and it was the Online News Act, and this was Bill C-18, and this was passed. This is now law in Canada, and it is what this does is it requires tech giants like Google and Meta to pay Canadian news organizations for sharing or linking to their content. And the impact of this law is that Meta responded by banning all Canadian news on Facebook and Instagram. Small Christian and independent news sites lost major reach. And now, why Christians should care about this? This law centralizes news distribution, marginalizing independent or faith based outlets and making it harder for truth to break through the mainstream narratives. It sets a precedent. If your message isn't part of the government approved club, your reach can be cut off. So, no different
Yeah.
than China, North
Yeah.
Korea, where they don't like what you have to say. You're not your reach is going to be impacted significantly unless these platforms pay exorbitant amounts of money to be able to do that. And they're not going to, and they've shown
No.
that they're not going to.
That's the thing, like, they almost did this because this has been a while. It's a couple
Yep.
years now.
Yep.
Um, and I think this surprises, especially, like, our American friends the most. Like, they'll share a news article on Facebook, and then we'll, like, send a message back. We're like, "Yeah, sorry, I can't actually look at this
Yep.
because like, there's a big, like, block on our Facebook feed, that says, like, Facebook doesn't even like, Facebook's kinda funny because they are happy to throw the Canadian government under the bus. Um, where, like, they're like, "Yep, because of whatever, because of this bill, we can't show this," but it's kinda crazy. Like, it's shocking. Every time I see it, you kind of forget about it, and then you're reminded every time you see a news article on Facebook. You're like, "Oh, yeah, look at that. Another thing my government doesn't let me look at."
Yep. And this is why like, who you vote for actually matters. And that's why it's so crazy to think and honestly, I think it's just that a lot of our parents' generation who voted for this. I wonder how much of it must be that they don't know, or if they do know, they just don't care. Because I'm curious, is that something anybody actually wants for the government to be able to tell you what you can and cannot read? And yet,
Like, no, clearly no. Like,
right?
that's a if that was just a poll that you made, it would be 100% no. Nobody wants to be told what they're allowed to read and not read,
Yep,
and yet they just don't care.
yep. And it just makes me
But
so
Trump's
frustrated.
mean, so
And that's they'll let that through, right?
yeah.
That's not they won't hesitate to let that through because I mean that's what again, whether you trust the polls or not, who knows? But it seems like so much of the final push that gave the liberals that little bit of a head or a little bit of a lead near the end there was they just leveraged the tariffs and Trump being bad and
Totally.
the last how many years of the media successfully making Trump out to be this just tyrannical dictator and the boomer Canadians just ate it up and they just fell hook, line, and sinker for it, and then anything else, 10 years of failures of the Liberal government meant nothing because, "Oh, well, Trump. Oh, yeah, okay, Trump, cool. Yeah, he's the bad guy. Let's
Yeah.
vote these guys in
And I mean,
again."
like, I know so many boomer generation, grandparent types that I mean, all they do, they just watch CTV News at 6:30 every evening, and, like, that's their source of truth, like, and they just it's gospel, and,
Yep,
these guys all hate us. Like,
yep,
they just really, really do hate us.
yep,
Like, they're all in the pocket of the federal government. Like, none of them exist aside from, subsidies and funding from the federal government, and we're just eating it up.
yeah, when I've tried to tell family that like, CBC, CTV, Global, all the major news outlets in Canada, I was like, "It's state-run propaganda," and they actually can't bring themselves to even understanding or considering that. It's like, "No, no, no, like, their bills are paid by the federal government. If their bills don't get paid, they're subsidized by the government. They only get money from the government if they behave.
Yeah.
So the only reason they exist is because they say what the federal government tells them to say." And it's just even to talk to them, it's like, "Does that not concern you?" And but like I think you're right. Like I don't think they even think about it. Because their CTV is not getting up and saying, "Oh, just so you know, everybody, by
Yeah,
the
there's not like an
way."
announcement at the beginning of the
Yeah,
news cycle every evening, brought to you by the Liberal Party of Canada. It's like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, and so another act that was passed. This is the Online Streaming Act. It was Bill C-11. And what this one is it updates the Broadcasting Act to regulate streaming platforms like Netflix, YouTube, and podcast apps. They are now required by law to promote and fund Canadian content. But what's important about that is Canadian content as defined by government standards.
Yeah. You wanna know what Canadian content is nowadays? Super gay.
Gay.
Like that that's like
Gay.
that is like, what defines Canadian content is LGBTQ, is, Aboriginal, is, I don't know. Is there anything else? Like, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean,
Hockey,
gender.
I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
They'll allow
they'll
some
still let
hockey in there.
hockey. Yeah, they'll still let hockey happen. But I mean, so this was passed in April of 2023, and this gives the CRTC, which is the Canadian Radio and Telecommunications Commission. I think that's what that stands for.
Sounds right, yeah.
Control over algorithms and visibility of online content. And why we should care about this is because anything that the government does not deem of Canadian values, because that's what the whole thing is. We want to promote Canadian values as defined by the federal government. And so guess what? Christians does not fall under Canadian values of our current pagan federal government, Christianity. And not even just Christianity, anything that promotes heterosexuality,
Yeah.
a
Ju Yeah,
family,
it's not even I wouldn't
anything.
even like, our version of Christianity is, like, so far
Oh, yeah.
out of the realm of anything that they would consider acceptable, but even, like, a neutered, just kinda conservative, old-timey family values version of Christianity is still, like, unacceptable.
Yep.
So, it's a long
Us as Reformed Christians, we're a ways away from being tolerable, even to Christians, let
Yeah,
alone pagans.
yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, even being at the conference and just being around, like, the Jeff Durbins and the Doug Wilsons. It's like, yeah, Christians don't like us very much, like, our tribe, and so, like, the world really, really hates us. But so it's just Americans, guess what? Like, this type of stuff is gonna come. Now, thankfully, you have Trump and his administration,
Yep,
and
you gotta
you
respite.
might it's gonna delay, which is wonderful. We're unfortunately gonna have to live through the, demise of Canada, but at the same time, it's like, okay, well, if we're wanting to look at it as, like, we want our kids and our grandkids to be in a better Canada, well, you know what? Better for us to deal with the destruction and than them, and let's hope that we can be part of that. And so, like, we're gonna continue to make stuff that really upsets our government overlords, and as long as we can do it, like, just know, listeners, like, we're not gonna compromise, like, we're gonna still say things are gay if they're gay, otherwise, we'd be gay, and so we're just gonna keep saying that because it's like, yeah, and if there might be a day where that becomes hard and for us to get content out, but yeah, we're not gonna bow to them, and, we hope that other Christian content creators will do the same in Canada. We know we have some like-minded friends in other churches. I know, like Trinity out in Waterloo, and there's other places, other pastors around who have their podcasts, Aaron Rock. They're gonna keep pushing out stuff, and even if we're not supposed to, and whatever, right? It's, not gonna let the government tell us what we're gonna do. But
And
then the other one, and
not even in like a like, stick it to the man. It's just like, we're literally just saying true things.
true
Like, it's
things, yeah.
not like, we're not going out of our way even to, be a rebellious people or anything like that. We're just saying things that happen to be true that our current, like you say, kinda cultural, governmental overlords refuse to believe or acknowledge or probably actually know, but are, just hate us and so refuse to acknowledge it, but yeah.
Well, and that's where, I mean, you even just saying that, like, they know. Of course they know. Like,
Yeah,
you actually have to be certifiably, like, insane to think that a man becomes a woman or that, cutting off the genitals of a kid is a good idea.
yeah,
Like, you're doing it because you're trying to destroy the country. And
yeah,
so, like, we know that Justin Trudeau, yes, he was a puppet for probably Mark Carney or whoever Mark Carney's boss ultimately is, but he wasn't just a yeah, he wasn't a terrible he wasn't bad at what he was doing. He was just evil and doing evil things. And so
Yeah,
all of these things aren't like policies that they think are good for Canada. Like Mark
but they're
Carney's
good
a
for their
globalist.
agenda. Yeah,
Exactly, right? They're good to see the fall of the West, which the West in their mind equals Christianity.
yep,
And so they want to see Christianity fall, thus doing all these things. So like that's I think one of the mistakes that Christians just make is thinking that Trudeau was bad at his job. It's like no, no, no. Trudeau was very good at his job. Mark Carney's very good at his job. Their job though is to
yeah,
destroy Canada.
yeah. Trudeau just he reached his expiration date,
Yeah.
and so they threw him aside and pulled
Yeah.
in called on the bullpen.
And it's incredible to me how Trudeau's popularity rating just like plummeted, and yet he was still just the mouthpiece of the Liberal Party. And they
Yeah,
bring in some older guy, and all of a sudden people are like, "Oh, cool. Well, yeah, I'm going to keep voting for
yeah,
the Liberal Party." It's like you guys are just so dumb. And but the final bill that we wanted to bring up, and this is the one. It's not y'all law yet, um, but it's kind of in progress, and I think they're looking to introduce it after the election that just happened. And this was what they're calling the Online Harms Act, and this is where pastors and churches and shows like this, but I think more specifically pastors and churches are going to be the ones who face the brunt of this if it actually does get passed. And this is Bill C-3063. And what this is a bill that targets harmful online content, including hate speech, misinformation, and fear-inducing opinions. And this reintroduces Section 13 of the Human Rights Act. And this was introduced in February of 2024. It died when the parliament was prorogued in January, which is just a fancy way of saying Trudeau just shut down
yeah.
parliament because he
Which
didn't
is
want.
how the Liberals pulled off their coup to replace
Yep,
Trudeau and eventually win this election in the first place.
yep. So it was Canadian politics are so dumb, but anyways, and so what this introduces as possibilities, it introduces up to life imprisonment for certain hate crimes, again as defined by the federal government. So what would be considered a hate crime? Speaking about homosexuality, sodomy, transgenderism, all the evils that our culture face, those would be considered hate crimes. And then because it has vague definitions of hate and fear. So what is fear? Typically, it would be like if I went and hit somebody, it's like, okay, well, that's justification. But now it's just like if I have a feeling of that what you say hurts me emotionally, they would consider that to be being induced to or fear inducing. And then these are all things. So what this essentially does is criminalizes biblical speech. It criminalizes Christians
It
from
criminalizes the pulpit, is what it
yes,
does.
because now we post our sermons online. Most churches post their sermons, whether it's audio or video, online. This now would make it illegal to do that when you're talking about the things that they would consider hate, like sexuality, gender,
Th this
and
this reminds me so much of the episode of The Office when, uh, Todd Packer, takes a dump on Michael's car. Or no,
or is
no, maybe no,
the
that was a
carpet.
different one. Anyway, anyway, and he's just like, uh, talks about it being a hate crime. They're like, "Michael, I
Yes.
don't think that's exactly a hate." He's like, "Well, I hated it." And it's
Yeah,
just
he
like, I
took a
feel
dump
like
on his
the Liberal
carpet.
government is now Michael Scott,
Yeah.
where just as long as they hate it, it's now a hate crime.
And it's funny when you say it makes me think of when Michael declares bankruptcy, and that's just gonna be our federal government just screaming, "I declare bankruptcy," expecting something to magically happen because our country is toast when it comes to our budget. Like, the Liberals have I think what is it? In the 10 years of Trudeau, they've more than doubled Canada's deficit since,
Yeah,
like, before just after World War
since
II.
its
So, like, the time
existence. Yeah.
from World War II to now, in 10 years, they more than doubled it. It's just like, it's rough. Um, but yeah, I mean, like that to me is so this episode in who knows, 10 years could land us up to life imprisonment because we made a gay joke. I mean, look at the UK right now. People are actually legitimately being arrested for posting on Twitter and Facebook things that the government doesn't like, and like they're actually going to jail in the UK for posting what they would consider hate speech
Yeah.
online.
So it's funny. So Carney, you mentioned the UK because like Carney was the guy that they brought over to like fix their budget, like hilariously. And I saw a meme the other day of the that moment in Pirates of the Caribbean when you're first introduced to Jack Sparrow and he's like standing on the top of the mast of the sinking ship and then he just kind of like lands on the dock
Yep.
and it's like the sinking ship of the UK and then Carney lands on the dock of Canada. It's like, oh man, that's so true.
And yet we voted for the guy.
Yeah.
And the reason why you see these types of bills matter is, they're going to let through anything that's pro Carney and pro liberal agenda, and not any of the articles from in Canada. We got Rebel News, we got True North, we have some independent news outlets which are bringing truth to this guy and letting people know who he really is and how he is absolutely a globalist, cares nothing about Canadian sovereignty or Canadian borders or bettering Canada in any way.
Even though the entire platform of their campaign was like, quote, unquote,
Ugh,
"Canadian sovereignty," like, "We'll never be the 51st state,"
yeah.
and yet like, these guys couldn't hate Canada more.
No, it's funny, what was it,
It's
2
like,
years
"We won't
ago?
let America take over, but we'll let China take," like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, what was it, a couple years ago when having in Canada, if you had a Canadian flag up, you were a Nazi.
yeah.
Now all of a sudden
Yeah,
everybody's like
during the trucker
pro-Canada.
convoy, you were,
Yeah, you were a Nazi. And now all of a sudden it's like we're pro-Canada again. It's like, yeah, I'm not really when they say pro-Canada, we're talking about 2 different Canadas.
yeah.
I'm not pro their Canada. I want the Canada that we had where
I'm
God's law was the basis of our law.
I'm pro the Canada that still used to sing the national anthem the proper way.
Yep. I still do every time. And I say that part where it's like in All Thy
In all
Son's
by son's
Command.
command,
It's like,
yeah.
"No, no, no," and I yell it because it's like, "No, no, no, that's the anthem."
Yeah.
I'm honestly surprised they still have God in the Canadian national anthem. That
Yeah,
actually shocks
it's
me.
shocking, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, they
but
obviously are talking about a different God, but
yes, that's true. Well, so yeah, listeners, there you go. That just gives you a bit of an idea, and, like, there's gonna be more stuff, but that it just it shows that, Canada needs prayer. We do ask that, Canadians, I think that's one thing in all of this that's important. Yes, we want good media, we want good content in Canada, but, like, more than that, we should want to see Canada, like, made into a Christian
yeah.
nation. We should pray for Carney, pray for all the Liberals. As
Revival
hard as
first, yeah.
yeah, like, as hard as that is for us to deal with this man now being our prime minister, it's like we do have to remember that he was appointed by God, and, I mean, it's an act of judgment against Canada. Um, I think even though Trump, for all of the good that he's doing, like, he's still most likely a pagan who, like, the man still owns strip clubs, and he's by no means a moral man. Yes, God's using an immoral man to do good things, but I think all of this shows that we just need to be praying that there is revival in Canada and the US. And hopefully, we'll see governments that would repeal this. Like, even in Canada, there was a new party this year in this election that shockingly is looking to abolish abortion, which is crazy. Like, no, I don't know of a political party in Canada or the US that part of their platform
Yeah,
is the
as a
full
like a federal party, not
yeah,
yeah.
like their full abolition of abortion, criminalizing abortion, which is wild. So, I mean, there it is. There's like that's a United Party of Canada, very small in our area. I think of like what was it? Probably like 13,000 votes or something like that. 190 people voted for them. But you start small. I mean,
I
the
mean,
Nazis
we didn't
started
even
pretty
have a
small.
my
No, you didn't.
I didn't even have
No,
one in my writing, but yeah.
no, they're not prominent, not big. But so there it is. Like now we pray that we can see more people join that party and vote and campaign and all that, and hopefully we can start seeing some better stuff. So politically, because it does impact online content, right. This is where Christians who have this idea that voting doesn't matter. It's like, no, it absolutely does matter, right? You enjoy watching your favorite pastor online. Guess what? You can't vote liberal if that's what you want to do. And
Yeah.
right, if you like certain podcasts or shows online,
Yeah,
guess what?
so boomers, goodbye John MacArthur. All right?
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. The guy who you love so much, like you might not in Canada be able to watch John MacArthur in 5 years from now because you voted. Now, when I say you, they're not listening to this podcast, most of them anyways, but it's
Fair enough.
right. But like really, it's yeah, okay. You just again voted for to remove your rights and your freedoms as a Canadian. But anyways, we'll deal with it as it
Don't do that.
comes.
Just don't do that.
Yeah. It's
Do
easy.
better.
Just don't be stupid.
Yeah.
But here we are. Well, listeners, before we go into our next segment, we want to wrap the show up. Let's just quickly hear from a word from this week's sponsor.
Hey, Reforming Nerdom listeners. If you're the kind of nerd who fuels deep theological debates or marathon game nights with a great cup of coffee, you need to check out Cosmos Coffee Company. Cosmos Coffee Company is a Christian coffee roaster in White House, Tennessee, that provides freshly roasted coffee to customers all across the U.S. and Canada. Whether you're diving into your next deep theology study or prepping for an all-night board game marathon, Cosmos Coffee has you covered. They have 7 great flavors, including the Pilgrim's Roast, a smooth, light roast with notes of blackberry, honeysuckle, and butterscotch, the Renewal Roast, a sweet Ethiopian blend with strawberry, agave, and peach, and for something extra nerdy, the Falcondra Roast, a medium Colombian inspired by Out of the Silent Planet with rich flavors of chocolate, brown sugar, and citrus. And because you're part of our nerdy fellowship, they are offering 30% off your first order for Reforming Nerdom listeners. Just use the code REFORMNERDOM at checkout. So, if you want to level up your coffee game, go to cosmoscoffeecompany.com, that's Cosmos with a K, and use Reform Nerdom, no spaces, to save 30% on your first order. Cosmos Coffee Company. Coffee roasted well for His glory, for the kingdom.
All right, welcome back. Well, to wrap up this show, Ben and I, we were thinking it'd be kind of fun to do a bit of a ranking of which villains we think would make a better prime minister than Mark Carney. So this is where we get canceled by our federal government. If we weren't already, if you've gotten to this far in the episode, awesome. Otherwise,
Let me I actually think this might not be as bad as you think, because I actually think that these guys don't think these are villains.
So you're going to say he would take this as a compliment?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. Well, first up, we have the one and only. So what we're going to do, actually, let's tee this up a little bit. What we want to do is this villain better or worse than Mark Carney? So we're going to put him above or below, and then we're going to put him in order to see if, like, okay, who is the best villain? Who would we most like to be ruled by compared to Mark Carney? All right. All right. So first up, the one and the only Darth Vader.
The Dark Lord of the Sith himself.
Would you, Ben, rather have Darth Vader rule over you than Mark Carney?
I would rather have Darth Vader rule over me than Mark Carney, and here's why. Like, so he rules the galaxy with an iron fist, but like he's clearly got a soft spot in there, right?
Mhm.
You know, like in the end, he threw the Emperor down the shaft and did the right thing, and like I don't think the Empire was as bad as people make it out to be. You know, like everybody seemed pretty prosperous and
I mean, technological advancement was a big thing under Darth Vader and Palpatine.
yeah, for sure. So, I think Darth Vader would squash my rights less than Mark Carney.
I agree. Okay, well, we're gonna put him up there for right now. That is the Darth Vader. Currently,
I
we
mean,
believe.
honestly, I think Vader will make a strong case to remain up near the top of this list.
Yep. Well, and he's anti-democracy, which I think we would actually be anti-democracy
Correct.
in the way, right?
Yeah.
So he is He is not for democracy. I am not for democracy, at least in how we practice it currently. Rule by the majority is,
Yeah. The
well,
tyranny of the 51%.
here we are right now. So, I mean, so some of the problems with Darth Vader, I mean, he does tend to kill people he doesn't like.
Yeah,
But at least he's honest about it.
but, like, Mark Carney probably does too.
He probably has hired a hit or two, and in his years as a globalist, I'm gonna say his hands are not clean. But okay. All right, next up.
I mean, nobody gets to the top without a skeleton or two.
That's
Come on.
right. Magneto.
Magneto hates Nazis,
He does.
right?
He is anti-globalist.
Yeah.
He is a nationalist, but for the mutant variety. So you and I, we'd be toast. But I mean, at least some people would be taken care of.
Yeah, but I mean, like, in today's culture, are we not basically the equivalent to, like, mutants in the X-Men universe? Like,
I
we're
feel
the
like we could.
outcasts,
Yeah.
right? So,
I, I
I think Magneto is for us.
You know what? And he would definitely not be part of those, like, what, Paris Climate Accords or the UN or
Yeah,
Davos stuff.
totally.
He
I mean,
he doesn't care.
didn't he, wasn't that exactly what he used? Wasn't it like a UN summit in the first
Yeah.
X-Men movie that he, uh, brought everybody to and then turned his machine on and turned them all to mutants and stuff? So,
Yep.
yeah, definitely anti-UN,
Yep.
anti-Nazis, like, this guy's kind of on our team.
A lot of ways. So,
I think
question.
I think he's below Vader. I
I would agree. I
I
would
think he's
agree.
below Vader, but certainly above the
Mark
Right
Carney.
Honorable Prime
Yep.
Minister Mark Carney.
Okay. All right. Next up, Lord Voldemort.
Well, I I'm trying to spin this one. Um, I, um, I don't know. He I don't know. I don't know. Help me out here. How t
You know what? Lord Voldemort is simply not Mark Carney,
That's true.
and
That's
that
true.
that 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 right there is some reason. Now, I'm trying to think about. I want to give him some benefit of the doubt. He's I mean, he's all for governmental reform,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
The heavy hand of
Certainly school reform.
he is. He wants to. You know what? In his twisted way of thinking, uh, he wants to keep, like us. We would want to keep non-Christians out of the government. So in his own twisted way, right? He wanted to keep the others out of government, right?
Right.
Now, convert Lord Voldemort to Christ, then all of a sudden it's only Christians in the Ministry of Magic. So there's a starting point there where Mark Carney, he just wants a mixed multitude of pagan gods being in government. So I feel like that right there's something to work with Voldemort, where it's just like you just
Yep.
got to convert him. He's already got the idea there that you have to have a closed group.
I love it. That's
Okay,
great. Yeah.
it's and he's
We need to start moving Mark down so that we can also move Voldemort down this list.
yes. Okay, so for right now, Voldemort is going to be a worse prime minister than Magneto and Darth
Yes.
Vader.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next up, the Joker.
The Joker. So, the Joker. Well, you see, um, he he's for prison reform,
Certainly.
right?
Yeah.
He let all of the guys out of Arkham and, um, didn't appreciate the way that they were mistreated and such. So, we can agree there. Um, Anything else? What do you got?
Well, you know what? He's not Mark Carney.
So he's
Listeners, you
got
see where
that
this is?
going for him.
I mean, he's got a wicked costume. I mean, like
Yep.
his get up. He's got You know what? He's not just a banking bureaucrat who wears a suit and tries to look all business. He has a flair for the dramatic.
Yeah.
He's charismatic. He can.
And and I don't think Mark Carney could, almost defeat Batman.
You know what? He could not. So the Joker, he has strong will. He has initiative. You know what? He single-handedly brought the Gotham underworld to its knees.
That's true.
So he curbed
Yeah. Police
crime,
reform,
right? So
prison reform, like, he's a man for the hour.
that's right.
I don't know if he's the man for all time, but he's a man for the hour.
And you know what? I don't like the government right now, and he didn't like the government. I
Yeah,
think Mark Carney loves the government.
that's true.
So the Joker, I'm gonna put him above Lord Voldemort.
I agree. I agree.
Okay.
I
All
think
right.
there's more I like there than with Mr. Voldemort.
Okay. Here we are. Now we're going on to Sauron.
Mm. This one's easy. I think Sauron gets up pretty high on this list.
Okay.
I feel like if if they would have just given him his ring and left him alone, that him and his orcs and his we found out in the rings of power, like they just wanted to have their little orc families and
That's
live
true.
peaceably in Mordor. And we all would have lived happily ever after.
I mean, Sauron built himself quite the army.
Yeah,
He is very much about protecting borders.
that's
He
true. Heck of a
right
border.
that he can build himself quite a wall.
Yeah.
So I think Sauron.
Yes, immigration reform,
Yeah.
to the max. Yeah,
So I I'm gonna put Sauron. Okay, I think above Joker.
I
Now
think
I'm gonna
so.
put him. I'm gonna
I
put him.
think it's a toss up with him and Magneto. I
Yeah,
think
I'm
I
okay
still
either
prefer
way.
Vader, but
Yeah, Vader. Okay, all right. I mean, like the concerns with Sauron are no privacy, right? Like it's
that's true. It's a little Big Brother going on there.
yeah. So I think you have a little bit better privacy with Magneto.
That's
So
true.
let's give Magneto number 2 spot.
I like
All
it.
right.
I like it.
Next up is Lex Luthor.
Lex
I
Luthor.
mean, he is an industrious man.
Yes.
He would know how to balance a budget. Carney doesn't even know how to spell budget, let alone
Yeah.
balance one. Um, he's yeah. I mean,
Yeah, just a businessman, really good at what he does. Like, maybe not the most moral of human beings, but neither's Mark Carney.
nope,
So,
nope, no. I
yeah,
agree. All right, I would trust him with a budget over Mark Carney
yeah, yeah.
any day.
I think I'm still putting him over Voldemort.
Where how about in relation to the Joker?
I think they're kind of on the same. I like them on the same level. I think it's kind of a toss up.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm happy with where everyone's at right now.
all right.
Who's
Next
this?
up,
Oh,
Hans Gruber.
Hans Gruber.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean the man's got style.
yeah.
Right. Oh shoot, what's the actor's name? I just love him. Oh come on,
Oh,
what's
I'm
his name?
blanking.
What is the Hans Gruber? I know this. Hans Gruber. Give me a second. Hans
No,
Gruber
you're gonna have to cut this out. It's an
is
embarrassment.
fictional character portrayed by Alan Rickman.
Oh, Alan Rickman,
Yes,
obviously.
Alan Rickman.
Yeah,
So I mean, I would take Alan Rickman over Mark Carney
yeah,
any
for
day of the
sure.
week. So like
And
Hans
we
Gruber.
all know that Mark Carney is actually just a character who's acting, right? He's not actually Mark Carney.
No.
So we could just actually vote for Alan Rickman
Yeah,
instead of Hans Gruber. So, um, yeah, even just for the entertainment factor of it all, of having Hans Gruber as prime minister, I'll take him over Mark Carney.
I agree.
And, let's put him in the B tier there with
I'll put him ahead of Voldemort because like
with the
Voldemort,
Dark Lord. Yeah.
he just has like a pretty high rate of genocide. So we'll keep him a
Yeah.
little.
I mean, like, couldn't even kill a kid, though.
No, it's true. And I mean, Gruber couldn't really, take over a building and get all the money. But
Yeah.
we'll leave it there.
Yeah.
All right, next up,
Thanos.
Thanos.
Thanos. See, Thanos is so people in the Liberal Party, people who vote for the Liberals, will at least tell you that they're well-meaning people, right? Like they're doing this for you. They're doing the right thing. I don't believe them for a second that they believe that. I
Mhm.
think Thanos actually believes it.
Yeah,
Like I think he really believes he's doing the right thing. So
he does.
at the very least, at least he's honest.
Yeah. His intentions are pure. Like, he
Yeah.
really thought that the world needed half the people gone, and you know what? He
Yeah.
just did something about it,
Yeah.
you know? And
He's
so,
he's a go-getter.
there's honesty and integrity
Yeah.
in
And
that, and you know what?
you know who doesn't have honesty and integrity? Mark Carney.
Mark Carney. Mark
Mark Carney.
Carney.
Yeah.
Yep. Alright, so
I don't
Thanos,
I'm bumping him up there. Like I'm
like,
happy with him.
up in, like, S
He might be in
tier.
that S tier with I mean, we might have to bump all of those guys down a little bit here eventually, but
I
I'm
mean,
happy with him up in that range.
'cause you know what? Mark Carney's all about climate change initiatives and universal healthcare. Guess who took care of both of those things in the snap of his finger?
With one snap. Yeah.
One snap.
Yep.
Alright,
Totally.
Thanos. Alright. Next up, President Snow from The Hunger Games.
See, you're gonna have to help me with this one because I don't know this at all. So, even not
So,
knowing, I still think I know who he's gonna be above. But
you know what? He is a man who, in the midst of rebellion, he still kept his people safe.
Mm.
You know? He did, put up every year, 12 to 24 kids, depending on the year, up for slaughter. But
I mean,
you know
small
what?
price to pay, really.
For keeping control over a really bad situation, right? You know, we don't know. Like, did the
I mean, how many
12 districts deserve it? I don't know. Did
maybe,
they? Like, maybe they deserved it.
maybe,
Maybe
maybe
they took,
you know how
yeah,
many kids the Liberal Party puts up to
lots
slaughter
more.
every year? A lot more than
Bang.
12 to
Oh, wow.
24.
Dang it. Yeah, we don't hear anything about abortion in Pan Am,
Yeah,
but there are more. Okay, so like, really, Mark Carney is just slaughtering children. It's pretty minor for what President Snow has
yeah,
done.
yeah.
All right, so I'm going to put, okay, I don't think, I mean, Pan Am, like, there's massive technological innovation.
Yeah.
Like, there is a fashion industry. There is, like, tons of wealth, hence people disfiguring themselves to look like
I
lions.
think this is pretty similar to the Lex Luthor,
Yeah.
uh,
You
category.
know what? I think I trust the Joker a little bit more than him and Lex Luthor as well. I'm gonna put him over there.
Okay.
Just underneath Lex Luthor, because he's a pretty evil dude, but not as evil as Mark Carney.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Good. Agreed.
Next up, Bowser.
Bowser. Well, he's he's, um he's got a thing for princesses.
Yeah, so family.
Family man.
Right?
He
He
really
wants a wife. He just longs for a wife, man. He just wants a family. That's all he wants.
yeah.
And who
Um,
hasn't been angry at their plumber for making a mess of their house, right? Like, who can really judge him for
seriously.
being angry at an Italian plumber? Like, who are we to say,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about Mark Carney, but I did watch a video of him and his wife dancing, and they looked ridiculous.
Yeah.
Bowser
Y
and Peach
and
dancing, that'd be beautiful.
you know who was not a good family man was Mark Carney's predecessor, who
That's right.
couldn't even keep his wife.
And
So,
you can't separate them together, or you can't separate them. Yeah, here Bowser wants a wife. Justin Trudeau just throws his wife away,
yeah.
and so
So,
that's Mark Carney's partially his fault. I'm gonna say.
I think
So Bowser, he's just a family man.
I don't
Okay.
think he's an overly competent ruler, um, but he's not Mark Carney.
No,
So, I don't think he gets super high up in this list, but
no. So
he's
I'm fine keeping him down here.
I'm
I
okay
wouldn't
I'm okay with
really
that.
want him
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
doing that. Okay. Next up, Captain Hook.
Captain Hook. Captain Hook. See, so imagine living in a world that was entirely populated with only children.
Yeah, I'd be
Would
pretty
that
upset.
not be the most
Yeah.
insanely frustrating? Well, like, you would be far more angry than Captain Hook ever was.
And this one, like, really annoying kid just trolls you
Yeah, he
all the
flies
time.
around with his
Yeah.
stupid little fairy. Like, I'd I'd be pretty grumpy too. So, like, I
And you know
can't
what?
fault him.
Pirates, they get a bad rap in terms of they're very successful at what they do. They
Yeah,
set their mind to it, and they do
he
it.
seems to run a
They're
pretty tight ship.
they don't lie about who they are type ship, nice. I like,
Yeah,
yeah, and, they don't lie about it. They're just like, "Yeah, I want your stuff. Give it to me, and nothing bad's gonna happen to you."
yeah,
He's honest. They often treat people well, sometimes not well, but
yeah.
you know who treats
So
people poorly all the time?
yeah, I mean,
Mark
all
Carney.
he's doing Mark Carney, all he's doing is it's just taxation,
Yeah,
right? He's just being honest about what it is.
that's right. Yeah,
It's just theft, but he's just not calling it taxation. And
yeah.
honestly, I think pirates would probably steal from us less than the Liberal Party.
I 100% agree. Okay. I'm gonna give him like I'd be totally fine being ruled by him over most of these guys up here, if I'm being
Yeah,
honest. Like
sure.
a pirate, they're successful, they're honest.
Up in
Up in it,
The
yep.
Joker, Luther, Snow
Snow, yep.
category, sure.
Okay. All right. Next up, Doctor Evil.
Doctor Evil. So this I have against you, Doctor Evil, is that you just showed up in a commercial for said Mark Carney to convince Canadian citizens to vote for this man. So um, it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one. But I don't know. You have to help me out
Eh,
with this one.
See, I think one of the benefits that Doctor Evil has is he knows he's a joke.
That's true.
Mark Carney, I don't think he realizes he's a joke.
He does think very highly of himself, it seems.
He does. And so I think by nature of that, we have to say Doctor
Just
Evil
just by
for
nature of his
self-awareness.
self-awareness. Yeah,
He
I
is
like it.
self-aware,
He's a
right?
self-aware ignoramus, where
Yeah.
Mark Carney is not.
Yes.
He's just
So,
an ignoramus.
yes. And I think Doctor Evil has better one-liners than Mark Carney.
That's true. That's true. Okay.
So Doctor Evil would be a better prime minister than Mark Carney. Okay, we've only got a few more. We can't possibly have only people better than Mark Carney, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Okay. Next up is Lotso Huggenbear.
Lotso. So, here's the thing about Lotso, is that, he was for his people,
Yep.
right? Like, everything he did was to protect those closest to him, right? Protect his citizens in the daycare. So these foreigners showed up one day uninvited.
Yep.
What's he supposed to do, right?
Preach. Yep.
Yeah. So again, like
I mean,
solid on immigration.
putting them in a furnace, like, I don't think you need to go that far. I don't think
Yeah,
that's, but doing something, right?
yeah,
Doing something. I understand. I can understand the temptation to just want to get rid of them because I don't want false gods
yeah,
in my
yeah,
neighborhood.
yeah. I mean,
I'm not
who is this Andy, anyways?
I know. Some overlord of these cowboys.
Yeah,
Okay. So Lotso, definitely a better prime minister than Mark Carney. Now the question
yeah.
is, where do we put him?
I think he's above I think he's above the Bowser Doctor Evil tier.
Okay.
So I think he's there in the Hans Gruber Dark Lord Voldemort tier.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. All right. Next up, we have two more, everybody.
Yeah, I can't see this one. Who is that?
Biff Tannen.
Oh, that's Biff.
See,
Right.
Biff, unlike Mark Carney, who had no political experience whatsoever, Biff Tannen was mayor.
Yeah.
In the future, right? He was the mayor.
Yep.
Now, maybe not great, but at least he had experience. Mark Carney, no experience.
Yeah. I mean, looking at this list, we have, I guess you could say Vader, Sauron, Snow. they're pretty much the only ones with
True political experience, yeah.
governmental political experience. So that
Yep,
alone gives Biff a bit of an advantage.
yep.
So,
I mean, he rocked a wicked mullet, so
yep,
he's
he sure
definitely got
did.
style, right? He's not ashamed of who he is, where Mark Carney, I don't know who he is. I don't think Mark Carney knows who he is.
Yeah.
So, Biff Tannen, I'm gonna like,
I think he's at the front of that B tier. Yeah,
yeah, I agree. So
yeah.
he's right up here because, yeah, like, Snow, I mean, his experience, I think there yeah, he's not quite up there with these guys. Alright. Ladies and gentlemen, we're down to our last villain who I guess we'll find out if anybody or Mark Carney is better than anybody. The last person is Lord Farquaad of
You
Shrek,
know
Lord
you
Farquaad.
you know, he definitely has a better chin
Yep.
than
Oh, man, look at
Carney.
that.
Um, far superior. So, hmm,
You know what? He is a man who, in spite of his, obvious obstacles, his height deficiency, he still figured out a way.
overcame.
He
Overcame a
overcame like
lot.
that,
Yeah.
and he was all about, uh,
Again, just
his
wanted a
people,
princess.
his
He just
kingdom. That's all he
yeah,
did. Yeah. So
yeah,
his family values. Mark Carney's not about family.
yeah. I mean, these fairy tale creatures were, unruly, impossible to lead. It's not
Yep.
his fault.
Yep.
So, I think he's above Bowser. I think he's maybe the front of the C tier.
And then the only thing that makes sense then is for Mark Carney to be in the D tier all by himself.
Huh.
And would you look at that, everybody?
Amazing.
Mark Carney
Shocking.
was the worst on this list. It's who would have guessed that Darth Vader, Magneto, Sauron, Thanos, the Joker, Captain Hook, Lex Luthor, President Snow, Biff Tannen, oh darn it, what
Hans Gruber.
Hans Gruber, Lord Voldemort, Lotso, Lord Farquaad, Bowser, and Doctor Evil would all make better prime ministers
Yeah.
than Mark Carney. And you know what? They'd all get my vote because Mark Carney will be a terrible prime minister.
I actually think I wrote in Lord Farquaad on my ballot on
We
Monday.
should. Well, listeners, this is a very serious list. So if you would like to chime in and let us know how we could have improved this, if we missed anybody, I know we did. We just didn't have time to put everybody, but this is the official Reforming Nerdom who would be a better prime minister than Mark Carney list. Ben?
Awesome. I'm I'm thrilled. I mean, this was
Uh,
totally unplanned. I mean, we
uh,
like Carney, we gave him
you
a
brought this
fair
on
shot.
yourself, sir.
We
You
gave him a
did. You
fair shot.
brought this on yourself.
Yeah.
That's right. All right, listeners. Well, thank you if you stuck around for this whole thing. We love you. We appreciate you. We're thankful for you.
Yeah.
And
Give us your
again,
tier list. Love to see it.
I would love to. If we missed somebody obvious, let us know. It'd be even better if you joined us over on Patreon and Discord. Let us know what you would have included, how you would have done this. But yeah, thank you, listeners, for listening. Thank you for your support. And until next time, stay nerdy.